about Pureskill?
Sure. So right now, Pureskill just works for a game called Counter-Strike. So pureskill.gg will take a replay file from the game, pull that apart into its individual elements, and then we analyze that, find mistakes, and then tell you exactly what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. We're very specifically not a statistics website. We are attempting to mimic an actual sort of coaching relationship.
Welcome, everybody, to another interview in the Growth Secrets interview series. Today, I'm here with Bill Freeman. He is the founder and creator of what is it? And I got to get it right. I don't want to get the domain wrong because I messed it up. It's pureskill.gg.
That's correct.
It's really exciting, guys. It's really neat stuff. It's an AI powered coach for gamers. So, like, if you're a gamer, this one is for you. Bill's a super sharp guy. Really interested to see the technology behind this and how he's building this and how he's taking this thing to market. So, Bill, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, tell us a little bit about you. You mentioned you gave me a little brief synopsis of your background before this, but tell me of your history so that we can understand who we're talking to.
Sure. So I'm originally from Louisiana. Did my undergrad at LSU. Go Tigers. Um, so I got my undergrad in physics, and then I went on to grad school at University of California, Riverside, to get a PhD. And so there I was studying like galactic outflows, learning the whole scientific process, and so I graduated from there in 2017, and then I got a job as a data scientist at Lowe's Corporate. So I moved to North Carolina for that. And then after that, I got a job at a remote data science consulting firm called Row AI. Their big claim to fame is they have a really sophisticated AI that helps NASCAR, like the people who like decide, oh, do you want to change your tires and make all these decisions, and have like demonstrated that it helps people win at NASCAR. So that's super exciting. And then before moving to North Carolina, I had been working on pureskill.gg. And so that's the whole automated AI powered video game coach. And so here we are.
Yeah, so some nice light learning you did there, getting a PhD in galactic outflows and data science. So glad you took the easy road there. So tell us a little bit about PureSkill. What does it do? What Tell me about the business itself, right? Like how is it monetized? I'm curious about that as well.
Mhm. Sure. So right now, Pureskill just works for a game called Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is a pretty long-standing, stable game. It's been out for 20 years. I've played it for about 15. And so pureskill.gg will take a replay file from the game, pull that apart into its individual elements, and then we analyze that, find mistakes, and then tell you exactly what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. A lot of There are seemingly a lot of websites out there that do a lot of statistics for gamers. Gamers are very interested in these kinds of things. We wanted to distinguish that, and that we're very specifically not a statistics website. We are attempting to mimic an actual sort of coaching relationship. The feedback that you'll get is something like, "Hey, in round 7, you bought X, you should have bought Y, and here's why." Right? Um, yeah. Wait, did that answer everything?
Yeah, I mean that's really cool because one of the things that we've known, and I'm going to come from a slightly different perspective, and I'm going to use the sports analogy, right? Is the analytics and the AI takeover of sports, right? And
Moneyball.
how that's impacting coaching, and then of course business, well documented, and then the same technology you're using to apply to what we know is a really growing industry, and that's the gaming industry, and even the professional gaming industry is becoming much more mainstream. So on the business side of things, is this monetized yet?
No, it's not. We're actually in a closed alpha right now. Um, and so when looking at Counter Strike, we're going to analyze 9 different like game mechanics. So if I use a sports analogy, this might be like, how fast do you accelerate when you run? How quick can you change directions? What is your decision making process? If you're like thinking about football, like how accurate do you pass the ball or something like that? So we take these different game mechanics, and some of these are done on the back end. Some of these are not quite finished yet, and so we're building things up. And so the monetization that we're going to start with is basically like a tip jar, kind of pay what you want while we're still developing the core product. So it's not ready yet. So we don't think people would just like, oh, you know, pay full price for something that's not done yet. But we found that people are really excited, and we can sort of use this excitement that people have because they love these games to translate that into, well, our message is basically, we aren't ready yet, but we have costs. Can you help us with that? And then like however much they pay now is like we could just give them credit once the product is out in the future. So it's like, okay, pay $5 now, we'll give you $10 credit later. Um,
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I've seen that strategy done before, and it can work well, especially when you're in that closed alpha stage, right? And so what is the thinking for it? Is it to roll it out as just a paid service or an ad supported service or a
eventually,
partner, kind of a with through an acquisition or something like that?
well, eventually it'll just be like $15 a month as like a flat rate for the whole product. And then there's going to be a free tier. The free tier is good because we can, like, once we get someone's data, we can run our assessment on it and then say, okay, we detected 37 distinct mistakes and have advice on how to fix it. Give us money and we'll let you know. Right. Um, and yeah,
Almost like a freemium model where you do the analysis and maybe even give a little bit of advice first, but it's like for the full package, upgrade or something like that?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's really neat. And then and then forgive me for my ignorance here, but like what is the market for this like? I mean, is this I
So,
understand that this could have more broad application when the technology is applied potentially to other things, but what does the market for this look like?
right. So it's actually kind of a difficult calculation because I could look up the gaming market itself is $150 billion a year, right? Bigger than music and movies and sports like all combined or something like that. But so the gaming market is pretty big, but that's not the correct assessment because we're not selling a game. We are selling an enhancement to the game. And so what we can do is go and try to look at um, how often do people seek some kind of enhancement. And so one thing that I can look at is 15% of all videos on YouTube are gaming related, and 74% of the people who watch gaming related videos are doing so to try and get better themselves, right? So that already puts us at like, YouTube made $15 billion a year. That's like 2 billion in revenue from gamers trying to get better. And then also I can look at things that Counter Strike players pay for that are also enhancements. So like ESEA and Faceit are third party sort of matchmaking. They offer better servers, like their own admin system, and like an enhancement to the already core game. And hundreds of thousands of people pay for this, and it's $8 a month, between $8 and $15 a month. So I can look at those to get a good handle on it. That like, yeah, when gamers want something, they're willing to pay $10 a month for something similar.
I gotcha. And so how do you get this in front of them? I mean, is there a way to use is there like an in-app marketplace or an in-game marketplace for this?
There's no in-game marketplace, but there. Okay, so for Valve, you could put something on Steam. I know ESA has actually put themselves onto Steam. You can buy it through Steam, which is interesting. I think it adds a little bit more legitimacy. It's like, oh, I just got this on Steam, like the games marketplace. But there's not anything in game because I think that would be like seen as some kind of endorsement by the developers, and they would never endorse something like this. That's just like not what they do. Not that it's bad or anything, but so our usual our strategy for trying to get in front of people has just been like the game itself is big enough to just target on Reddit. We can just go to the Global Offensive subreddit, and that's a big enough place that we know 100% of the people are playing Counter Strike and um, want to ingest that kind of content. So yeah, so targeting people on Reddit as well as YouTube. There are people who have made their entire careers based off of YouTube videos related to Counter Strike. And so we did work with one influencer, paid him about $1,000, and they put out a sponsored message on one of their videos, and it came out to something like 50 cents per like sign up on our list. Right now, you can sign up on our wait list, so that $1,000 translated to close to 2,000 new users signed up, which I've told is a
Well, and
good
I can
rate.
only imagine that, like, using that data science approach to be able to figure out a way to quantify any marketing efforts is going to give you a huge advantage, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you're already aware of, just hearing you talk about that, like, $1,000 for an influencer equals 50 cents per sign up, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's a way to start scaling that that marketing strategy, which is really interesting.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry. So I was just going to ask then. So what about, like, through partnerships with other games, right? If, let's say, this was licensed, are there plans to say, we'd like to license this technology perhaps for a different game? Is that in the growth strategy?
Yes. So actually, the long term plan for this is to actually create a two sided market.
Hmm.
To give an example, Uber is a two sided market in that they hook up drivers with people who need rides. Yes. So we actually want to make a two sided market with data scientists and our customers and the actual gamers. So the actual like the real growth is going to happen once we can create that sort of system, which is not something that's really been done before in the data science world. And so we're like, once we validate the idea on Counter Strike, we validate the idea that people are going to buy this with what we make. Then we can go to investors and say, okay, yeah, we want to build out this you rather complicated system to make a two-sided market. And then that's how we will be able to quickly add new games. That's so we can handle game updates faster. Um, there's just like so much benefits, but right now we just need to validate our own ideas. Um,
Gotcha. What's the roadmap for that? Like, what's the timetable for being able to take it to market in terms of receiving outside funding?
so right now we're actually super excited to have gotten NC Idea micro grant for $10,000. So this is a North Carolina specific grant to help grow companies in North Carolina. So we're going to take this $10,000 and try to get out um, our first core end to end data science product out there within 3 to 6 months, and then finally add on that monetization. And from there, it's going to be so that's like within the next 3 to 6 months. After that, to continue to add and grow that product, to continue to update the monetization as well. Maybe it's $5 a month, then $10 a month, then full product is $15 a month. Yeah. And so we're trying to grow and validate everything on Counter Strike first, and then so like 9 to 12 months from now, we hope to be able to say, yes, this is something that people are buying, people want this. That gives us enough to go to investors to ask for money to build this two sided system. So within 12 months, I hope.
I gotcha. And let's say outside of that, I mean, is this a cash flowing, business potentially that you could just have? Is this your full time gig?
I'm full time on it, but we're
Yeah.
still pre revenue, so there's
Yeah.
no cash flowing in yet. But we're pretty confident that once people get the actual like beta version of the product and can pay for it, that they will. But I think nobody really knows if someone will buy something until they actually buy it, right? We've done enough surveys and talked to enough people. We're gamers ourselves, so we know the market, we know the customer. But like until somebody actually buys it, it's hard to sell investors on the idea. And then your question was like, is this my full time job? Yes, I'm working on it full time, so I'm just basically burning through savings trying to get this thing going. Um, uh, yeah, it's our run rate, our costs are very low actually. Something like on the order of $300 a month, and that's going to scale with the number of users, which is why we have it closed right now. And so yeah, it's difficult being in this stage, but we're hoping to progress to the revenue generating stage pretty soon.
I gotcha. And so speaking of that, when it comes to that marketing piece, I know we talked about those different extensions, not extensions, but just like communities outside of the platform, but that are still in those, we'll call them pseudo social, right? Reddit and Steam and things like that. But what about traditional social media, traditional marketing efforts like a website and digital and those types of things? Is that in the thinking? Does that is that eh, in this world, in this kind of marketplace, is that something that works?
So by in this world, do you just mean like gaming in general, or just
Yeah,
like
in those
pre-revenue?
communities, in that market, is that something that works?
Right. Yeah, I think there are big enough. The game is big enough to have its own community that we can target using the traditional tools. And like we did, actually, kind of strangely enough, our Instagram ad was one of the most successful. So we had like this, came up with this pretty cool image and then put it out there. And we didn't, before you do any advertising, you don't know what your conversion rate is. People like this ad. Will they, do some A/B testing to figure things out? But um, like, yes, we could with the tools. It only makes sense to market to people who play the game. There's nobody who doesn't play the game who would ever buy this. So the question is, can we target those people? Um, and The answer was yes, for the small amount of marketing that we did. But as of right now, we aren't doing any spending on marketing because it doesn't really. It's hard to justify it being pre-revenue and spending on marketing with no product, right? So we're pushing the product out, and then part of this grant money that we got is going to go towards marketing after that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Um, well, Bill, this is really interesting. I love seeing kind of because, admittedly, this is a different industry for me, right? It's one I have less experience in, and I'm not a data scientist,
Mhm.
right? So this is super fascinating. I imagine that our listeners feel the same way. Where can they learn more about? Uh, about what you guys are doing and just kind of follow that along. I mean, are you keeping you documenting this in some way? You have a blog? That's something that I would be really interested in seeing is like a behind the scenes of a pre-revenue, data science driven startup. I mean, to me, that'd be super interesting. So, you documenting this in any kind of way?
Not really. We're not even all that active on Twitter. We've just been super focused on the tech. I'm planning on like some sort of like internal newsletter to people who might be considering investing. But aside from that, we aren't. That's good to know that you'd be interested in that. I don't know if people would be interested, but good to know.
Well, there's always like these cross sections of communities, right? Gamers who are also interested in business, and developers who are also interested in gaming, right? And entrepreneurs who are always looking for upcoming tech, and what is definitely, I mean, I'm not gonna. It's impossible to deny the growing, uh, the growing juggernaut that is the gaming industry and all of the
Hmm.
ancillary businesses and opportunities there are in there. So I would think that savvy investors, really forward thinking, even seed, I mean, angel investors or venture capitalists would be looking at these things to keep tabs on what's coming through the pipe. and just with your credentials and with the technology that you're developing behind this, I would imagine that somebody would be able to see that and want to follow that. So yeah, I mean, I would say that that yeah, this has been a really interesting conversation. I want to follow this and I want to keep tabs. So I'm gonna invite you back here, in another 6 months or a year when things are further along to see the progression, because I mean, I just think that'd be a neat thing to follow. So
Okay,
uh,
yeah.
well, Bill, thanks again for being with us today, folks who are watching this live. If you're watching this on Facebook Live right now, do me a favor and just leave a comment that says live. If you're watching the replay later on, just leave a comment that says replay. Helps us understand when people are watching, and if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it. Helps us to do this better in the future. But until next time, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one.